What is good? We're back. We got my man Austin over there. What's good, Austin? We're going to hit you with Cornerstone's top 24 players under 25 years old. So any player over 25 is excluded from this list. We came up with this ranking sort of, and we're going to do it mock draft style, so a little more fun. But we're using Superflex tight end premium as kind of the context of this discussion and how we decided who was a cornerstone in this situation. And cornerstones are foundational players of your dynasty team and league. So these are going to be a bunch of the younger guys that we really like, all under 25. Austin, how you doing, man? You're under 25?
No, I'm not quite under 25. I wish I was, man. I'm 28 actually. But,
okay.
Little corner. Yeah, I'm sure. But yeah, man, a little Cornerstone mock draft for your pleasure. This is going to be a good one, man. Again, top 24 players under the age of 25. Casey, you got the 101, brother.
Yeah, so like I said, we're going to do this mock draft style instead of just like straight up rankings and tiers. So I thought that would be kind of a fun way to do it. I'm sure we'll do rankings and tiers versions of this at some point, and it will change, obviously, because next time we do it, we got to throw the rookies in there, right? We got to see where Genty ranks as a cornerstone and all that kind of stuff. So we'll be doing all that for your pleasure very soon. So at the 1-1 here, I had a lot of decisions to make. I could have taken Ja'Marr Chase. Maybe I take CJ Stroud. Maybe a little bit of slump here. I had to CJ Stroud fall. I'm going Jayden Daniels. I saw the legs are good. The fantasy output is really good. He's really only working with one receiver over there. Eckler's kind of was a pseudo 2 wide receiver. He's kind of gone down. So next year, I feel like they're going to expand and spend some money on what's surrounding Jayden Daniels, and we'll see him grow even further. The willingness and all the information of him to the want to be great is, something that, works pretty heavy into my process, especially, when we're seeing it at the level and they're not just talking about it. A lot of stuff out there about how much Jayden Daniels wants to be great. So that's always something that you want in your fantasy player, that desire, that hunger. He's not just goofing off, being a silly goose, doing stupid shit. And he's the leader of this team, and he's looked great as a rookie year. It's kind of gone up and down a little bit, but the fantasy points with the legs are outrageous. So I got to go Jayden Daniels with the 1-1 there. What about you, Austin? What do you think? We think that was the right call, or what are you thinking there?
I'm okay with it. Like I don't necessarily love it. I don't hate it. Like it's kind of 50-50 for me, man. Do you think Jayden Daniels, when it's all said and done, wins the Rookie of the Year?
Probably. I mean, I don't know.
Think so?
Who would be the other candidates?
I mean, Bo Nix is absolutely up there, right?
Yeah.
There's of course Brock Bowers. I know he's a tight end, but god damn, he's playing out of his mind, man.
It'd be cool if Brock Bowers won it, but we know they want to give all these awards to quarterback.
Every award is a quarterback award. But Casey, I'll start yapping about the 102. Of course, it's Ja'Marr Chase, right? Feels like a value here. I was kind of going back and forth with Jayden and Ja'Marr. If I had the 101, I'd probably still lean Ja'Marr Chase, but it's a valid question. What am I going to say about Ja'Marr Chase? He could potentially win the Triple Crown Award, right? Most receptions, most yards, most touchdowns. He's already got 15 through 13 games. He's playing out of his mind. So I'll kick it back to you, 103.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I could have easily taken Chase 102, but it's super flex. I'm going quarterback. Want to get my guy here, and I went Daniels, but I like the Chase pick. You can't go wrong there. Number 3, I know I just said it's a quarterback. Got to take, but I'm going Brock Bowers because it's tight end premium, and I just wanted to have a little fun with this thing. And you could argue that maybe you should take Nabers or Caleb or CJ Stroud here or Bijan, but I took Brock Bowers, man. Like you said, he's lighting it up as a rookie. Could be Rookie of the Year, doing everything you want to see. Should get a potential quarterback upgrade next year. Everything is probably going to change in that Raiders organization, I would assume. I don't know how much better it can get for Brock Bowers, but this is awesome in the rookie year. So I went Brock Bowers there just to spice it up a little bit. I do really like me a big Brock solid tight end. I like those. Those are good. Those will get me going.
I feel you, man. I am in the same sentiment to all right, we're moving on. We're yapping about we're yapping about the 104, brother. Malik Nabers, I feel like it's a value here, right? Malik Nabers is out. Casey, like this actually really caught me off guard, man. And this is dating back to week 4, right? Weeks 1 through 4, he was going nuclear. Since then, he has not finished better than the wide receiver 24. he's still the wide receiver 9 on the season, right? That just shows you how high his upside is to do that during his rookie campaign with the quarterback play that he's had as of recently. Like, it's just continued to get worse, right? Whether it's Drew Lock, I don't even think he's starting this week. It's going to go back to DeVito. So just kind of been a roller coaster of a season, right? Started real hot and now it's, definitely crashing, and
kind of in purgatory.
Obviously, yes, it's not all of his fault. In fact, I would say it's almost none of his fault because he's the chosen one. We are all in on Malik Nabers. He's the truth. Back to you, man. 105. Who you got?
Yeah, I don't mind the Malik pick. I could have easily taken Marv or Puka or CJ Stroud here, but I went Caleb. I stuck with Caleb, stuck with the young gun, stuck with all the tools, and we've seen up and down through this season, but the ups and highs have been exactly what you want them to be. The legs have kind of opened up and been really good. The scrambling ability has been on full display. He's getting those cheap, easy yards, picking up first downs. I like what we've been seeing, especially when they changed coordinators, got rid of Waldron. Bit of a weird season. It's the Bears. They kind of screwed things up a little bit, and now we're at an interim period. He obviously just had a terrible game against San Fran, but again, we've seen the legs be there to give you that little bit of floor of rushing around that Caleb can give you. We've seen the high highs, we've seen some low lows, but hope is a hell of a drug. And if somebody like a Ben Johnson goes over to where Caleb Williams is right now, we could really see the sky be the limit here. DJ Moore signed up. Rome Odunze's there. We'll see what happens with Keenan. They got Komet. Just got to improve some play calling, the situation around him a little bit, and not to make excuses for him. Like I said, he's had his deal of struggles of maybe holding the ball a little bit too much. He's been under a lot of pressure though. Still very, very high on Caleb Williams, not coming down. And CJ Stroud, maybe it's recency bias, but just been a little low this season of the output that you're seeing from him. Even Caleb being bad. Like, I think Caleb has some higher highs already than CJ Stroud, which we saw last year from, like, as far as fantasy points anyway, like we saw last year from kind of CJ Stroud. So I want Caleb here. What do you think, Austin?
Yeah, I support buying Caleb low right now. He still feels like a buy low to me, right? I know we've seen the flashes, but I don't think the consistency's quite been exactly where we want. But that you could say the same thing about the entire Chicago Bears, not only offense but roster, right? So they're just going to get better, man, as time continues. They've lost so many heartbreakers this season, and if a few of those games just flip their direction, the narrative, right, the sentiment, just the media would really portray a totally different image about the Chicago Bears. So I fully recognize that. And again, I support this pick, Casey. 106, 22-year-old Bijan Robinson. Now, man, it's funny because like we were frustrated with his RB9 finish during his rookie season. He's the RB4 this year, right? We're seeing that gradual improvement. He's taking the steps in the correct direction. 7 of his past 8 games, Casey, 20 plus fantasy points. I know I was talking about the inconsistency with Caleb. It has been nothing but consistent for Bijan Robinson.
Yeah, again, in this top little chunk here, I feel like you could make a case for taking anybody at any spot. Bijan's been so great down, really most of the season. There was a few games where it was just okay, but what he can do is on full display. He's been outstanding. You got to be excited about the future with Bijan. So I don't hate that pick at all.
Hey guys, a quick reminder to head over to patreon.com/the FF Dynasty to sign up for a free membership to get access to the free Discord channel. Or hit your boys with the $5 holler and get access to extra shows, mock drafts, roster reviews, ADP, and player pages. All for your pleasure.
On the next pick at 107, I'm going to go CJ Stroud. Just he's hanging around the quarterback. I've taken them all so far. Not one single quarterback yet for Mr. Abbott over there. So we'll see if that trend continues, making me make all the boring quarterback picks. So couldn't let CJ Stroud fall any further. Yes, it's a little bit of a down year. We've seen him be very good as a rookie. Is it Slowick? Is there a little bit of an issue there? They got to figure some things out. The offensive line's been banged up and not quite up to maybe where they were at parts of last year. So Stroud's been under a decent amount of pressure. Miss Nico for a chunk. Diggs, they picked up Diggs. He went down. Everybody's kind of missed chunks of the season here for one reason or another for CJ. Again, not necessarily an excuse, but I think he's a good quarterback. I think this is probably excellent value at this point if we're talking cornerstones for Superflex tight end premium. So I had to snag the quarterback value there. How about the 108, Austin? Who you got?
Casey, taking a running back. I'm going Jahmyr Gibbs. So this is a one quarterback draft. Apparently you didn't know that, right? Apparently. But now I love Gibbs here, man. I know I was just yapping about Bijan taking that step forward. How about Gibbs, man? Going from RB10 to the RB5 currently, right? From year 1 to year 2. I think like the most impressive part when we discuss Jahmyr Gibbs, it's the efficiency, it's the high production. And I say that when you really contemplate his low snap percentage. And when I say low, man, I'm talking like a lot of these games, he's in like the 50s, the 60s, even the 40s in a handful of them, right? Of course, David Montgomery, another great running back. I would argue the best 1-2 punch in football, right? One of the best backfields, probably the best backfield without question, right? Most would say so. But yeah, man, all things considered, it's wheels up, right? Nothing's going to change in the near future. If anything, I'm like, hey, maybe Gibbs starts getting a little more work, a little higher snap percentage, right? That's kind of where I see Detroit's backfield heading to in the future. And if it doesn't happen, like, this is clearly still working at a very, very high rate.
Sure.
So it's perfectly fine how it is. And I think it's great with, regarding the tread on both players, right? Gives them a breather, gives them a little bit of a break. They're still able to get the job done. I mean, that Lions offense is just humming week after week. I can't wait to see, I just can't wait to see Gibbs one day get into a little bit, larger of a role. I know it's going to happen, but hey, man, like I said, I will take what we're getting right now. RB5.
Yes, of course you want to see that, but frankly, I really don't even care. It's awesome like it is. If you could just eat, I don't even need a whole lot more. If I could just get a pinch more every game consistently, it would be awesome. But David Montgomery's so good, I ain't even mad at him. Obviously, the O-line's sick too. All right, the 109. I had a lot of options here. Again, like you said, you're in the first 11, 12 picks, man. It's a really, really fun and kind of easy in a way because they're all good picks, but hard in a way because you have to decide between them. I was kind of looking at Marv here, which I think, Marv should be, I think Marv should be up a little higher, but you can't cram them all into one spot. But I went Puka here. I just, Puka's still young in his second year and just came right back out and absolutely slaughtering whenever he's on the field. Just an absolute boss out there. Love what we're seeing from Puka. How long does Stafford stick around? I don't really know. And frankly, I really don't care at this point. I feel like I'm very comfortable with the Rams figuring things out. If Stafford decided that he was going to go somewhere, that they're not just going to sit around without a good quarterback to run McVay's system and operate this offense, that's just not going to happen. They'll figure it out. And in the meantime, as long as Matthew Stafford's over there, Puka Nacua is a top 3, 4, 5 receiver.
Yeah, man. I to tell you the truth, I took Nabers at the 104. I was like, do I take Puka here? Like I could have. I absolutely could have. I think he really reminded everybody that he's the truth, right? It wasn't a one-year fluke. I'm not just some late day 3 hit that popped off for the majority of or the entire season last year. It's like, no, dude, I'm able to replicate that. I am really like that. So shout out to Puka, man, getting the job done, looking like an absolute, superstar, rock star, top 5 dynasty wide receiver. Casey, I'm up. What is this? 110 right here. I'm going to take Marvin Harrison Jr. So full transparency, I was really torn. I kind of wanted to go Brian Thomas Jr. here. I was going back and forth with these 2 wide receivers. Yell at me in the comments. Tell me I'm stupid. Tell me I should have taken Brian Thomas Jr. I'll probably agree with you, right? I these 2 receivers I just go back and forth with. And look, 2 weeks ago we saw Marv set career highs in targets at 12. Last week he had 8, right? So we're starting to see the trend going in the right direction. 20 targets last 2 weeks. Good volume improving, right? Production, not quite where we want. He's wide receiver 28 on the year. Like when you drafted Marv in redraft, you were probably hoping realistically for him to finish as, let's just say like a late wide receiver 1, maybe in that like 10 to 12 range. If you drafted him in Dynasty, of course, he was going at the 101. He was probably going in front of, Nabers, Brock, Brian Thomas Jr., everybody. Probably Caleb in a lot of leagues too, maybe more than 50%. So all things considered, it has been a frustrating, relatively disappointing year for Marvin Harrison Jr. With that being said, like he can still hit 1,000 yards this year, right? He can still hit 10 touchdowns. right? So while it feels like so much has gone wrong for him, right? When we look back at his stats at the end of the year, like they're going to be perfectly fine for a rookie campaign.
Yeah, man. I think it's a really good discussion point. The Marv thing, I for anybody who is fading or disappointed in the season that Marvin Harrison Jr. is having, I think you just need to take a step back. Like, it's all right. If Nabers hadn't have come out and had that crazy stretch in the start of this thing, I don't think we would have been, we're so quick to just start comparing these guys and say, well, he's not doing this right now, so he must not be good. Like, Marv's had his good games. Marv's had good stretches. Marv's had a good rookie season. He's playing a little bit different role and a little bit different position. He's got another guy on his team in Trey McBride who is good, and they've been a little bit more of a running team, I think, than expected. And he's playing the outside X receiver role and just staying in it. Things have improved as far as targets and making sure that things go his way in a lot of games. Kyler has been a little up and down this year for sure. Petzing, could probably do a better job. We don't really know a whole lot about him and his offense just yet. We'll see how that kind of continues and evolves. But I just, for anybody who's down on Marvin Harrison, like it was almost an impossible position to be in, right? You'd rather be Puka Nacua than Marvin Harrison. Nobody expects anything from you. Now with Puka, everyone's going to keep denying it until it's been a whole year or whatever, and then they're going to have to kind of buy in. With Marv, you're saying, look, he has to come out and have, be wide receiver 5 right away. Now, if you were drafting him high in redraft, that's a you problem. You shouldn't have been drafting him as high as he was going in redraft. That was just silly. Like, it's probably not going to work out. You got to hit on a rookie in redraft at some point, but you want to hit on the value of the rookie in redraft, right? You don't want to take the highest rookie in round. I don't know. Marv was going like round freaking 1, I think, in some redraft leagues. Like, that's a bit aggressive. And so I think the line got crossed and you couldn't put it back in the bottle, but Marv has still been really good, really productive, and having a very nice rookie campaign here. So do not get discouraged by Marvin Harrison Jr.
And Casey, I want to make one quick analogy, or one quick comparison rather, just before we move on. You look at Jaxon Smith-Njigba, right? People were pissed off about his rookie campaign. They were frustrated. They're like, yo, like, this guy's a bust. And here we are a year later. He looks fantastic, dude.
Yeah.
Jaxon Smith-Njigba, by the way, played every single game, all 17 during his rookie season. Right now, Marv could stop playing. He already has more touchdowns, more receiving yards. I just want to point that out there. Marv still has 4 games left. Like, he's probably going to be right around the 1,000-yard mark. Again, north of 10 touchdowns. He's going to pass him in receptions. Maybe hits 60, 70 range. Like, just remember how people felt about JSN a year ago.
Right. And Marv's having a much better campaign.
Already past that. Yeah.
All right. So 111. I'm going to keep it moving here. I'm going Breece Hall. The big games that we saw from Breece were outstanding. 18, 24, 18 to start the season, had a 3.8 in there and a 6.7, then a 21 and a 26, a 9, a 10, a 12, and then a 31, a bye, and then he's got 6 and was injured. So, he's got some bad games in there. I think the big games are more what we expect and what we are used to with Breece. I think that's more in the lines of who he was or who he is. I'm still very much in on Breece. I think this is good value here. He's one of the top 3-4 running backs in the NFL, both rushing and receiving perspective. Jets weren't what we thought they were going to be this year. Rodgers didn't get it together like we wanted to get it together. The offensive line still wasn't outstanding. We did see some really good spots from Breece. I hope Breece doesn't play for the rest of the year. I hope he just sits out. Like, there's really no reason for him to play. Get right. Let's move on to next year, and I'll be happy to draft him. He's for sure locked in as a big-time cornerstone for me. So I'm taking Breece Hall here at 111. All right, 112. Who you got?
Yeah, I'll wrap it up. End of the first round, Brian Thomas Jr. So I was going back. Could have very easily taken him at the 110. We're seeing a player, again, during his rookie season on pace for over 1,100 receiving yards. He's probably going to end with close to 10 touchdowns. He's the wide receiver 10 right now, man. And he's currently playing with Mac Jones, right? Just sky's the limit for this kid. Casey, we've always known that. It's what we loved about Brian Thomas Jr. We knew that his upside was immense. We knew that he was really like this, so I'm all in, man. I am all in on Brian Thomas Jr. It feels so good. If you have Dynasty shares, like, do not sell high, man. Just hold and enjoy winning with him because it's going to get better. I firmly believe that Trevor Lawrence, in my opinion, I think consensus would definitely agree with me that better days are ahead for T-Law. Obviously, that means good things for Brian Thomas Jr.
Yeah, we gotta get the coaching staff switched up. We gotta change some shit up. We got, let Trevor get healthy, come back. While Trevor isn't the generational player that everybody thought he was, again, you get caught up in that stigma. Now, if he's just a pretty good quarterback, you're upset about it, right? And I think Trevor's probably just a pretty good quarterback. I think, it's kind of been established that maybe he isn't on that Jayden Daniels level of want to and give a crap about being the man, but he does seem to be a pretty good leader. I guess what I'm saying is he's kind of been on record of saying that football isn't like everything to him, which is, I respect, but like I want my quarterback I want it to be Tom Brady level kind of maniacal, work ethic of things. But nevertheless, Trevor, I think is a very good quarterback and is going to be just fine with Brian Thomas and a new staff. So can't argue with you there. I can say firmly that it's Marv over Brian for me. That's not a question for me yet. I'm still betting on that. So, All right, I'm going to go 2-1 rather. And I'm going to take another quarterback because, I guess I'm taking them all. I'm going Drake Maye here. Brock Purdy right now, as we're recording this, is 24 years old, but he does turn 25 here in a few days in December. So I left him off of this list for now. I think you could bring Brock Purdy into discussion, right around here, maybe a few picks later. But I took Drake Maye, and I took him over Garrett Wilson. I took him over Drake London. I took him over Bo Nix. Those guys were all on the mind here. When I came up to this pick, it was like, oh man, I got Garrett Wilson. I got London. I got Rashee Rice. I got Bo Nix. I got Anthony Richardson. I like all these guys, right? And some of these guys are safer with the wide receivers. You kind of know what you're getting at this point, and you could play it safe there. The quarterbacks, Bo Nix does seem to be fairly safe and putting up some good fantasy points right now. Anthony Richardson, cheat code there. We've seen it, some improvement since the benching. But to me, this came down to Drake Maye. The situation can almost do nothing but drastically improve here as we move from year 1 to year 2 with Drake. What we're seeing with the pocket presence, the game management, he can make all the throws. We're seeing the legs be big time with him. He just legitimately has nobody to throw the ball to. Like there's just the offensive line's got to improve. They're banged up. The wide receiver situation has to. There's no way you can go into next year and say, hey, we got this guy. Let's just keep the same thing that we're doing. You must address this situation. I think Polk could still be there. I think Javon Baker can still be a part of what they're doing. I think Pop Douglas is a good player. Hunter Henry's, a great veteran tight end, and he's been Drake Maye's go-to guy. And I don't think you should change anything there, but you got to add a big-time guy on the outside for Drake Maye kind of moving forward. And I feel like with all of the elements that he has, he can put up those elite numbers if we can just get a little bit of improvement from kind of what we're seeing. So that's kind of why I went with Drake Maye. And he doesn't quite have the stink on him for some people, people are still infatuated with Drake Maye as far as the value of Drake Maye's name, where there's a lot of stink on Anthony Richardson's name for some people, and they can't stomach all the talking heads and the things that they've seen a million times from bad highlight tape and Anthony Richardson getting benched. So a little less risky there with taking Drake Maye. You could take Bo Nix here, but when we get to Bo Nix, I'll talk about Bo Nix. So I'm going Drake Maye here at the 2-1.
I feel you, man. I am back on the clock here with the 202. I'm going to take Garrett Wilson, right? Feels like a value, definitely. I know Garrett, he really checks every box in Dynasty, right? The age, the consistency, the production, right? He's always open, right? Garrett Wilson is always open. The wide receiver 7 right now. He's on pace for the best year of his career, right? He's going to probably set career highs in every category except for one, and that's targets. He might do that, but it shows us that his efficiency is also improved, right? I kind of viewed Garrett Wilson, and like this is no disrespect, but as like a very expensive Deontay Johnson. And what I mean by that is like the epitome of a target hog, right? Like ton of targets, a little inefficient, right, in the past, but it's okay, right? Like Garrett Wilson's I don't even want to like put that narrative on him. Like it's more of a compliment, if anything, right? Garrett Wilson's just continuing to evolve, getting better. And right, that's even with Aaron Rodgers struggling, right? He's done it now with backup quarterbacks what seemed like future journeyman in the NFL. Garrett Wilson gets it done with anybody. And then what do they do, Casey? They add a legit wide receiver one in Devontae Adams, and he's still acting like a true number one, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Garrett Wilson had a game this season with 23 targets.
Yeah.
Just kid special.
Yeah. Stat padding. Yeah, if Garrett's quarterback situation was a little more locked in, I feel like he'd be up this list a little bit. Everyone would feel a little more confident. But I like the value. I'll take as much Garrett Wilson as I can get. He's a good player. I like the Deontay Johnson thing. Maybe a little bit better attitude than Deontay, I would say. Like Garrett, I think is still a little testy, which is fine from your wide receiver, but not quite on the Deontay Johnson level.
Like we saw Deontay get 140 plus targets in 3 consecutive seasons, or 3 of the past 4, rather, whatever it may be. And he just looks like that on steroids is really what I'm getting at.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens with Garrett Wilson's situation, but it seems like a good buy right now. All right. I'm going to hit the next one. Anthony Richardson coming in on the next pick. Again, could have went Bo Nix, could have went Drake London, could have went Rashee Rice. Feel good about all those guys. JSN, Achane. That was, that was the list I was building at that point when I'm going in here. But apparently Austin doesn't like quarterbacks, doesn't need quarterbacks, doesn't want quarterbacks. He's just hey man, you do all the responsible stuff. I'll just take all the fun guys.
Yeah,
all right.
Yep.
But I took a fun guy here in Anthony Richardson to some. Some people are going to hate this pick, and he shouldn't even be on here. He's definitely not a cornerstone, but my stance on Anthony Richardson really hasn't changed all that much. Like the thing is, and I'll try to be as quick as I can. We're not seeing excellent play from Anthony Richardson. We're seeing improved tiers, and we're seeing highs and lows, but like he scores in the high teens, 20s with relative ease in fantasy, and that's what we're trying to do. I'm not talking about him being the face of the franchise best quarterback in the league. We're talking about scoring fantasy points, and he's a guy who can break fantasy points in a quarter, right? All of a sudden he can go from having 6 points to having 26 points like that. And, I'm willing to continue to take the risk on that. He hasn't played a lot. We know that. We know all the good narratives and all the bad narratives surrounding him. But like we're at mediocre play at best right now, consistently from Anthony Richardson. If we just take a slight step up, what those fantasy points can be is so crazy. And it'll make him unattainable from a fantasy points scoring area. Because he'll just, if he can just turn it up a little bit, he can be in that elite level of guys who score like Lamar and Hurts and all the guys with the good legs. You're seeing it from Jayden Daniels. So Richardson not even running all that much right now, right? I think we're gonna see it ran back with Richardson here. You have to, and he's gonna continue to do what he's doing. Does it turn into a Justin Fields situation? We'll have to cross that bridge, halfway through next season to see if we should hit the eject button. But for now, I'm riding. I'm taking the risk and the upside here on Anthony Richardson instead of Bo Nix.
Yeah, and I like this pick, right? I think this is very appropriate. Look, spoiler, I'm taking Drake London with the next pick, but I felt like, man, I played this draft very safe, right? Like I go BTJ, Garrett Wilson, Drake London. Like I'm taking players who I feel very confident about, not only this season, but long-term, right? And then of course you got the Drake Maye, you got the Richardson, right? Like some guys that definitely still have question marks. I get it, man. I mean, a lot of times this is what you have to do to separate yourself from the rest of the competition, right? You have to take these risks. And if you hit on an A-Rich, or if you hit on some of these players at a certain value, right? It's just going to catapult you in front of all the other teams. So like I feel it, man. I feel you, man. I totally get this. To yap a little bit about Drake London. 23 years old, 6'4", 215, right? Love the size, love the age. We love the production that we've seen from him. And I was a little skeptic, like this offseason. I always liked Drake London. I always did. I just thought that his ADP was a little rich, right? He was going off the board as, oh man, what was it? Like the wide receiver 11? I think it was right around that range, maybe 10 to 12. He right now is the wide receiver 8 in fantasy, right? It kind of feels like everything is going his way. I say that
quarterback slumping.
I say that, and it's hilarious because like his quarterback play obviously been very, very frustrating lately. You have frickin' Darnell Mooney leading the team in receiving yards. Apparently he's the GOAT. Just all things considered, it's been a very successful campaign for Drake London. I think that this kid is just going to continue to thrive, right? I don't really see why he wouldn't, right? I think that he's super safe, not only redraft, dynasty. I feel good about him, man. I feel really good about Drake London.
To me, this season just stamped of what we kind of knew. We just need him to get some okay targets, and he'll be just fine. And that's what he's gotten. When Kirk's been good and been peppering him, he's been elite. And so we know it's in there. We know he's good. I can take Drake London without any hesitation, which I kind of already was. I felt good about it, but this could have been the year where maybe you overstepped on the value and lose a little bit, but it was right on time. So I like that. So Drake London was your 2-4. 2-5. I'm taking the probably the last quarterback that's going to go in this draft at 2-5. I'm taking Bo Nix finally. You could replace him with any of three of any two of those quarterbacks, Maye and Richardson, and I couldn't really argue with you. I kind of went with the other two over him. Is just and I'm sure people aren't going to like this, but like I feel like I don't know. I don't get as much sizzle and wow from Bo Nix. The system that is built around him is very good. They're a perfect match. We've been saying that since he got drafted there. I think he can execute what Sean Payton wants him to do. They're using the boots and the legs a lot better. He's a safe asset, I feel like, at this point, and it is scoring good fantasy points. So you got to be thrilled to have Bo Nix, and it is no shade at all at Bo Nix. I think I'm happy to have him. I'm not looking to upgrade Bo Nix with anything. I'm keeping my Bo Nix draft picks. And hey, I got a decent amount of Bo Nix because the value was great on where you could get him. And I'm excited to have him. He's really going to help out a lot of teams of mine. Anthony Richardson and Drake Maye, to me, have the upside and the colossal explosion that I think could be possible. And, I know, Bo Nix, when you look at it, it's like, well, what's great about his situation? Well, his defense is really good. His offensive line's been actually way better than they thought it would be. And he at least has Cortland Sutton, something Drake Maye does not have at all. Like, if I would love it if Cortland Sutton was with Drake Maye right now, right? He's got a good rotation of running backs, Bo Nix. So like, yes, he doesn't have the rest of this. He doesn't have a 2 and a great 2 and a great 3 and a tight end. And those things I think will come. They're in a little bit of a cap strap situation, but I don't think the environment's terrible for Bo Nix, and he's thriving in it. So I just pushed him down a little bit here. Like I said, you could easily swap him out at the 201 there with Drake Maye, and I wouldn't argue with you. But for me, he's a little bit more vanilla than those two guys, and that's saying, he's got legs as well and uses them really well. Shout out to ZZ Top. But he's a really, really expensive, organic, hand-churned vanilla, if you know what I'm saying, the high end.
Casey Myers, certified Bo Nix hater. His words, not mine.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So
there was no hate. I tried to tell you how much I love the guy. I mean, you're the one that's hating the quarterbacks, man. Like, I had to take all of the quarterbacks have a CM next to their goddamn name.
Dude, it's a one quarterback draft, brother. That's what we're playing in. No, we never do Superflex on the FF Dynasty. You know that.
We've never done it before. All right, let's speed these up. Let's wrap this thing up.
All right. I'm taking De'Von Achane here. I'm on the clock. I think that the only concerning part that I have with Achane, and I don't even know if this is a real concern, Casey. I'll keep it quick, but when Tua was not under center, right, struggled heavily. But you could also say Alston. What about Tyreek Hill? What about Jonnu Smith? What about Jalen Waddle? Right. Everybody struggled. Apparently, Jonnu's the GOAT now. Didn't see that coming. It is what it is. But yeah, I mean, besides that, man, Achane has just been lights out. 20 points per game. It feels like every single game with Tua under center. So, absolutely love. This is really the best outcome, I would argue, that we've seen for De'Von Achane.
Yeah, you can't argue with it. I like it. He's studded out. I like the Achane pick there. 2-7. I'm going Rashee Rice. I think he's a boss. I love him. I know he's injured, and maybe you're going to have to deal with some sort of suspension here looming. All that's factored in for me. If Rashee Rice was still playing right now, he would there's not all that much you could tell me otherwise, but like, he would be a top 3 scoring fantasy wide receiver. Like, they brought in DeAndre Hopkins. He ain't Rashee Rice at this point. Like, DeAndre Hopkins is a great player, but he's 32 and he's not Rashee Rice. Travis Kelce's still good, but he's not Rashee Rice at this point. Like, Rashee Rice was crushing in those first 3 games.
Yep.
Through his fresh tenure of being the Kansas City Chiefs GOAT, as Austin's been saying here. He has a nice rapport with Patrick. Like Xavier Worthy obviously isn't exploding at the moment. I think they were hoping they could bring him along a little slower, do the more gimmicky stuff with him year one. Rashee was their guy, is their guy kind of moving forward here, and would have just been peppered with targets. And week after week, I just felt like 16 points was the floor for Rashee Rice. If he gets in the end zone, forget about it. I think the world of Rashee Rice, and he's a good fit with Patrick. Andy knows how to use him. I think this is almost too low for him at this point. I think you have to have the same respect for him, at least in my eyes, as Garrett Wilson and Drake London. He's tied to a much better quarterback situation, and while maybe his pedigree isn't as good as those, and maybe his attributes, if you put him on around a racetrack, and he's not as sexy, but man, when he's on the field, he puts up some sexy ass points. So I'm going Rashee.
I was just waiting, seeing how far Rashee could fall, hoping I could take him, and he got snatched up just before me.
207, baby.
Love that value right there. 208. I'm on the clock. JSN, man, one of the biggest risers, I would argue, in not only redraft but all of Dynasty. Right, he goes from the wide receiver 48 as a rookie to the wide receiver 6 right now. Casey, yeah. I mean, this is just hell of a season so far. Dare I say the wide receiver 1 in Seattle, Big D, if you're listening, how do you feel about that, brother? I mean, it feels like every single week, and not feels like it, but in terms of production, he has more yards than DK, right? And the past 2 weeks, man, he's not even getting the targets. It's like 4 targets, 5 targets. He's still north of 70 yards. Like, he's been efficient. He's been productive. He looks really good, man. He looks like the kid that, we thought he was as a sophomore at OSU,
Yeah, they're figuring JSN out right now. I think there'll be games where DK looks like the pseudo number 1 because he's built like a number 1, but every spot that they've needed something, it's been JSN in almost every game that I've watched of them. And like I said, they got a first-year coordinator. They're figuring it out. Lockett's usage is dwindling. JSN has completely seemingly taken over a chunk of those targets as well. And like you said, I think from both perspectives, he's been efficient and he's been a hog, so even when it's not his game, it's been very nice. And even when he wasn't going off, he was still playing he was still like a top 24 receiver when he didn't have those crushing games and everybody wasn't all over him again. But this is why we stick with players when we have a good evaluation and we know what they are, and we watch games and we can see if they can play, because JSN clearly can play and is crushing right here. So I won't be surprised if in a year he's at the top of this list. He's seems that damn good. All right, at 209, I'm taking Rome Odunze. Got to keep him on this list, and I felt like it was fitting taking him after JSN because that was kind of the comp coming in, not as far as play style, but how it might go year one, right? And I think Rome is probably doing some more things that turn your head than JSN did year one. He just happens to have Keenan Allen and DJ Moore in front of him. If you turn on the film, he's open. He's had blow-up games where he was really good. This past week, he had 2 touchdowns. And I believe he could have had a 2-point conversion if Caleb would have looked his way. But he's shown you that he could take over a game, and he's just the guy. I'm not moving too far off of Rome. I'm buying as much Rome as I can in the offseason, just like I was JSN this last year, because him and Caleb are going to grow up together and do this thing together for a really, really long time. And my God, if we get, I don't know if Keenan's here next year, but my God, if they get an offensive-minded coach who knows how to call an offense, like say a Ben Johnson, I don't know how the Bears don't go out and say, hey, Ben, here's a blank checkbook. Whatever you need to do, come over here and coach Caleb Williams, because that's what you need. You need a mastermind to get a hold of that guy and scheme up an offense just for him, because you have the parts and pieces currently. So I'm going Rome Odunze there. Who are you taking at the 2-9 here?
2-9. I'm going to take Zay Flowers, and I feel like the theme of this entire episode, Casey, is talking about players who have gradually improved, but it's the truth, man. Like, everybody on this list just gets better and better. Zay Flowers, man, going from wide receiver 31 during his rookie season, which was really good, to wide receiver 15 this year, right? And we've had a lot of game script not work in his favor, where Derrick Henry decides he doesn't want to share the ball, right? It's very selfish. Yeah. Hey, Derrick Henry just cut his dreads. Might not be good anymore. Sell him in Dynasty. Now, you heard it here first. No, I'm joking, but Zay Flowers, man, he's looking like a legitimate baller. He looks like a team's true wide receiver one. It's really good to see him improve. Lamar's got his guy. Lamar's playing out of his mind as well, right? I know I don't expect Lamar to always play at this MVP caliber type of season, but I mean, Lamar is literally on pace for like 42 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. He won the MVP last year. I think it was 29 total touchdowns and 7 interceptions. I mean, Lamar is just totally taken a step forward. He's just elevated his game. So is Zay Flowers. Like what Baltimore's doing. Casey, you're up on the clock, 211. Who you got?
Oh, Zay's my spirit animal. I love Zay Flowers. I'm going Kyren Williams here. Some people are probably going to say, I don't want that to be my cornerstone. I don't want that to be a building block. But I mean, how long can we go on just being deniers of this guy? He goes out there and scores fantasy points. He's a workhorse. While it may not always be as efficient as the efficient Nazis would like it to be, it results in pretty good fantasy output. And he's keeping Blake Corum off the field. This guy is going to be used, I think, until the Rams are done with his contract, and then they'll probably move on to a Blake Corum and not pay a running back. But Kyren's been excellent. All he does is, last year he paraded people to championships, and this year I think he's a big integral part of a lot of people's teams getting to those same championships if they added anything around them. So I'm taking Kyren Williams there. It was Chris Olave, Kenneth Walker, Laporta, Ladd, Jordan Addison's playing really well. So those were kind of guys. Bucky Irving could be up in here, and maybe you say, yeah, I'd rather have Bucky than Kyren. Maybe so, but I'm giving Kyren his flowers here. I'm going Kyren Williams. Who you got with the last pick?
Yes, sir. 212. I'm going to take Chris Olave here, man. I was looking at him for a while, and I kind of thought he was going to continue to fall to me. I ended up being right? Feel great here taking him. Look, it's been a tough year, right? Obviously, concussions, multiple of them, very banged up. It happens, man, right? It's not ideal, but it happens. And I don't want to throw out durability concerns for Chris Olave because he played north of 15 games during his first 2 seasons. Okay, so it's just been a really tough third year. He looked good though for a stretch, right? He was hitting 80 yards consecutively. What was it? 4 straight games. Let me pull that up. It was 3 straight games. I apologize, but I mean, we saw early production from Olave. Again, gets hurt. Look, man, it's you can't control that. You don't know who's going to get hurt every year. I don't want to put the injury prone label on Chris Olave because I don't think that for a second. Now, again, playing 31 out of 34 games to start your career, north of 70 receptions each year, north of 1,000 yards. Dude, go buy Chris Olave low. I also just bought him in Dynasty. Casey, tell me how you feel about this trade, and then we'll get out of here.
Sure.
I bought Chris Olave in Dynasty. I bought Chris Olave in a 2, and I gave up. It was Chuba and David Montgomery. Did I get burned? How do you feel about it? Do you like it?
I like.
He's
Chuba
in win now. He's really pushing to win this year. I'm like a little bit more of rebuild.
I like Chuba and David Montgomery. Chuba's value obviously just went up even more with old Brooks, which we're about to do a 2024 rookie redraft. So we could talk a little Brooks on that one. A second in Chris Olave. I mean, I don't think it's terrible value. I don't think you got absolutely crushed. When Chris Olave is back doing Chris Olave things, you're going to be excited about that trade. David Montgomery is just crushes in your lineup always. Yep. He's such a steady piece to your lineup. I love having David Montgomery, but I don't feel some type of way either way. It feels like Chris Olave was potentially the best player points wise and longevity being a receiver. And you got the 2. So I guess I don't hate that. Those 2 running backs for that win now team was a really solid move for him too, though.
Yeah.
So, sometimes trades aren't just when both teams can have benefits at different times in trades. So
for sure, man. Yeah. Chris Olave wasn't going to help him out too much in this playoff.
No, it's a good buy low target right there, which we've been talking about all year long. Bucky Irving didn't make it. Kenny Walker, Sam Laporta, McConkey, Addison, McCarthy, Penix, Downs, Chase Brown, bunch of good guys out there. We've got a nice chunk of fun, young Cornerstone-like players for your pleasure. How close was Bucky to last thing here? to getting on this list? How many more picks would have had to go off the board before Bucky Irving got on the list?
The very next pick.
Okay. All right. I like it. Spicy. Over Kenny Walker.
Oh my God, dude. Ken Walker's been such a difficult evaluation. I really like Ken Walker, right? It's a little concerning when you see Zach Charbonnet go for 40 fantasy points and all of a sudden it's like, how good is Charb, man? It kind of makes you
we got
question a few things. No, I know. I didn't mean to come off like that, but I like Charb too, man. What about Josh Downs, right? There's
oh, for sure.
There's plenty of other guys too that I think definitely should be in this conversation.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, man, we're in a good shape with the young skill position players. A lot of fun players who haven't even peaked. Ladd McConkey's on the way up. Jordan Addison's having a nice little run. Downs we've seen a good chunk of the season from. So Bucky's been a wonderful surprise here. I would say we could get Tyrone Tracy on this list, but he's already over 24.
That's actually insane.
So, Worthy not on this list, but I can see Worthy working his way back onto this list. I know it hasn't been as sexy as you want it to be, but when you look at the points for Worthy, it hasn't been the worst ever. And I think they were expecting to bring him along a little slower. So, still in on Worthy, not like out on Worthy by any means. And I think you've been seeing some improvements throughout the season here. It's not like these crazy huge jumps, but you've seen improvement in play. Or at least I think so. So, all right, let's wrap this show up. I'm Casey Myers. That's Austin Abbott. You can find him on Twitter at Austin Abbott FF. 2 B's, 2 T's, 2 F's. You can find us at the FF Dynasty. Sign up for the Patreon, $5 holler, extra episodes, all that jazz. Be sure to keep it locked and loaded over here. Like, subscribe, comment below. 5-star review is a must. Hit us up with that. Until next time, peace.